All right, this is going to be a video for the Ausable Bomber. That's kind of what we're going to get at the end. Real bushy pattern, another Fran Better's original. I get kind of excited when I do a pattern that's based in the Adirondacks. It's just got a certain appeal to it for my home waters, what I've based a lot of my tying on. So I like doing videos on stuff like this, even though I do tie it a little bit different. I'll explain that a little bit as the video goes on. But in the vise, I've got a firehole 718 in a size 14, and I'm going to be using UTC 70 thread in burnt orange. That burnt orange color is just an absolute staple of the Adirondacks. I mean, it just seems like you include that either in the body or anywhere else on some of your flies, and you're gonna have some real success. Really great color. Okay, first order of business is we're going to get some wings on there, and I'm going to take some calf hair here that I've stacked, and this again is one of the areas where you're going to see a little variation. If there's any Adirondack purists watching this video, you're probably not going to enjoy this video because there's a couple of things that I'm going to kind of stray away from what Fran actually did, and this is one of them. The material that we should be tying in here is calf tail. Calf tail is a little bit more dense, a little bit more straggly. The body hair is a little bit easier to work with. You're gonna, for the original pattern, if that's what you're shooting for, use the calf tail. That's not what I'm using here. What you'll get with the calf tail is you'll get a little bit more bushiness. You'll get that that splayed out look that you're kind of looking for. I like my flies a little bit cleaner so I can show how to tie this fly and still, do it the way that I'm happy with at the same time. Now, the reason why Fran tied his flies like that is those Fran Better's flies were designed to handle that really, really turbulent pocket water of the Adirondacks. If you've ever fished the Ausable or some of those other rivers that, that tumble down the mountain, you get a lot of that really, really turbulent pocket water there, and back eddies and all kinds of different things going on. And the real bushy nature of Fran's flies really helped combat that, and I think that's part of what made them as popular as they were. And also they catch fish. There's not many things that'll make a fly more popular than it being really effective. So next thing we're going to tie in is in my stacker. I've got a little tuft of woodchuck guard hairs. So the tail is going to be made up of woodchuck. We'll get those fibers all straightened out. Make sure you get rid of all the under fur, all that kind of crap. We'll lay that on there, line it up. That looks about good. Get a couple of tight wraps on there. And lengthwise, that'll be good for it. Actually, I want that a little bit shorter. Don't be afraid to reposition that if you don't love the length. I'll get that tied in. Now this fly is tied much like a traditional dry fly. Wings, hackle, all that kind of stuff. The only thing different with it is we're also going to hackle the body as well. As I said, this is a real buoyant fly, real bushy, materials all over the place. Not quite as bushy as tying some of the flies he tied with snowshoe hair, which actually some people, I have seen some patterns call for snowshoe hair as the original body material for this fly, but I've also read that it's Australian possum. I believe it to be Australian possum, which is what I'm going to use in this video. So all we're doing here is creating a little thread dam in front of the calf hair. So we're going to go in and try to split that as close to evenly as we possibly can. Run a line of thread through the middle. And now we're just going to grip it and get some thread around the base to get that stood up and separated from the rest. I like these wings just because they stick up nice and straight and they help for visibility. As I said before, the calf tail is what the pattern originally calls for, but I really don't like calf tail wings. I feel like they're all over the place. These wings stick up nice and straight, and they really, really help with seeing the fly. When I tie Fran patterns, that's kind of what I focus on. Because when you're throwing these flies in some of that turbulent water, you'd be surprised how sometimes you really, really got to search for the fly. But with these wings on there, you're good to go. You're not going to have a hard time finding it. And there you go. Okay, so our wings are stood up, separated, all set to go. If you have any stray fibers there, just get right rid of those. Okay, now, before we wrap the body, we're going to want to get our body hackle tied in. So I've got a piece of brown and a piece of grizzly hackle, and you can see that I stripped the barbs off of one side of the stem. Now, a lot of people, I know, you're looking for some internet recognition. A lot of people will take the other side of the quill and strip that off to make their pictures look pretty on Instagram, but of course they're losing the buoyant nature of the hackle. That is not why I stripped one side in this case. I stripped one side of the stem for the simple fact that we're going to tie these up the body. And I don't want to crowd the body too much with too much hackle and make it so that you can't see the color of the fly. It doesn't make any sense. If you're going to wrap 2 double hackles over the body, then you might as well just not use dubbing at all. So it just doesn't make sense in my opinion. So what I'm going to do is take a tuft of this dyed Australian possum. This is a package of dubbing that I got at the Two Fly shop up in Wilmington. And it's, there are people out there that have, bags of Fran's original materials. I, unfortunately, am not one that's fortunate enough to have that. But I do know several people that have this. It's a certain color. As I said in the beginning, there's a certain color to Adirondack fly tying. It's a weirdish brownish type color. And that's kind of what you see in the original dubbing for this fly, the original dubbing for a lot of the Adirondack flies. It's an interesting color. But even though this isn't the original, this is a bag that the Two Fly shop sells. And it looks something like that, and it's pretty close. And it's what I use on just about all my Adirondack flies. Trust me, I would use the original dubbing if I had some. If anybody out there has a stock of that they would like to donate, I would not be too proud to take that off your hands. So now we're just going to go and we're going to dub our body with a nice smooth taper. Get that nice and neat all the way up to where we're going to tie in our hackle. And that'll pretty much do it. I didn't even realize I didn't cut off the stems, so let's get that out of there. And we're good. So anytime I do brown and grizzly together, I always do the brown first. So I'm going to take one wrap with the brown, and I'm just going to angle it forward and take wraps up the body. They're not going to be touching wraps. I want to be able to see the color of that body through the hackle. And once I get to where I have bare thread, where my body ends, that's where I'll tie this off. Now my grizzly is a little bit shorter, so I'm going to get, whoops. I just picked up a tuft of stuff off my desk and got it all over the fly. So I'm going to use my pliers for the grizzly because it's a little shorter. But we'll get a good wrap there. Get that working around the hook. And you want to try to make these wraps right alongside the brown wraps. You want them to be together. You don't want to spread them out because, again, then you're just going to cloud up the color of the body. And again, that kind of defeats the purpose in my opinion. So a lot of these on the internet, I see them tied, much more messy. But again, that's kind of what Fran was shooting for. That's why I said in the beginning, purists might not love this video, but this is how I tie them. Okay, so there's your body, there's your hackle. And the only thing left to do is to hackle this up the same way you would hackle any other fly. And I'm going to do the same combination here, brown and grizzly. Get those both tied in. Actually, you know what? I forgot. I always tie the grizzly in first. Whenever I wrap two hackles, whatever hackle I want to wrap second, I tie in first. So I want to wrap the grizzly second, so I'm going to get that tied in first. The first hackle I'm going to tie in, or that I'm going to wrap, is my brown, so I'll tie that in second. It helps lay better on the first wrap, so you don't get all kinds of build up and splaying all over the place that you don't want. It just helps out a little bit. So I'll get that out of the way. Piece of grizzly cut off if I could grab it. There we go. So I'm just going to run a thread wrap back up towards my wings just to thicken that up a little bit. You can see that the front part of my fly, there's just less build up there, so I don't want to throw the hackle size off too much by doing that. So I'm going to get my hackle cinched up in my pliers, and when I wrap this, I'm not going to take full touching wraps because I'm going to run the second hackle through it, and I don't want it to just splay all over the place and get crazy, so I want to leave a little bit of a gap between each one of my wraps so that I can slip the grizzly in there too. That'll help the whole thing look a lot better. If you just wrap them both in tight, they can really splay all over the place, make a messier fly. It's a much easier way to do it. So we'll get that tied off, and then we'll run our grizzly through it. Get a couple of good wraps there in the beginning, and then we're going to start working our way through all the little gaps that we left, and try not to gather too many of the wings when you get close to those. So try to hold those back so you don't screw those up. Brown and grizzly is a really nice color combo. When they start blending in together, you can kind of see the effect that it starts to take on. It's a really, really cool look. So brown and grizzly is an awesome combination whenever you're tying in two hackles. I just accidentally broke off the brown. Hopefully I don't screw that up. So I'll get a couple wraps in front. And I'm going to come in here with my fine point scissors. I used to tie my dry fly heads a little bit of a different way to minimize how much crap you have laying around, but these fine point scissors really eliminate the need for that. They can get in there nice and close and allow you to build a really nice clean head on your finished fly. So there's that. Get a couple of finish wraps on there, along with a whip finish. Now, we technically right now are done and can be done, but when I tie these Adirondack flies, I just snip my thread. That's all right. I'll show you how to fix that. You get a little bonus coverage here. So I snip my thread. I'm going to come in, clamp that down with my hackle pliers, and then I'm just going to restart my thread and double it over the tag end that I just cut off. And then right away, you're right back in business. So we'll go in, we'll re-whip finish that. So as I was saying, when I tie these Adirondack flies, one of the biggest things that I like about them is that signature orange color. So even though I don't really use a lot of head cement, I will use it here because the only time I ever really do use head cement is when I want it to soak into a head color that I really like. And it just kind of brings that out a little bit more prominent. Makes it look a little nicer. So there is that. That is the Ausable Bomber. That is a heck of a buoyant fly. Double hackle all the way up the body. Double hackle on the thorax. Really, really floaty fly. It's going to be really hard to sink. That is a Fran Better's original. Really fun to tie, but as I said before, the way Fran ties it is a lot more bushy than the way I tie it. If you've seen my other videos, this is just kind of my style. It's still plenty bushy enough But you can make any adjustments you'd like to it. If you want to use the tail instead of the body hair for the wings, and double up your hackle on the body, whatever floats your boat. But either way, it's a great fly, especially for turbulent waters. That's what most of Fran's flies were designed for. So it'll float nice and high and won't sink on you. So it's a great fly to use anywhere. Tie them up, keep them in your box, throw them just for a searching pattern. They really, really do a nice job. So if you have any questions or anything, throw them right in the comments.